Hello and welcome to week 9 of the Classic Championship Series. I am Elsa the Queen and I am excited to be here with my boss, Mr. Silver. How you feeling tonight?
I'm excited today. We got some week 9 action, huge playoff implications, and my first time in the booth this season. This can only be a banger.
Absolutely, and we're just jumping right into the draft right away. Interestingly enough, Oblivion Esports, they did have an E-sub here, which we do mean that we do know that means that they missed the first 3 bans. So they're just going to throw out the meme ban of the Teemo. I guess technically that is a ban. Not sure if that's in violation of CCS policies or not. We'll have to ask the upper boss man, I suppose, about that. But going into the rest of the bans, we got Jin Zhao and Thresh taken off the table from Lost Chapter.
Yeah, and I really like to see these bans coming out from the side of Lost Chapter. Xin Zhao and Thresh, 2 really strong ones, especially the Thresh is a good first side rotation. And interesting enough, they may just be banning the GP, which I find interesting with the changes. While he's still strong, I don't think he's as strong as he used to be, especially his early laning, which was hampered a lot. And sadly enough, we will not have Sultan in this game 1. We have an E-sub. He must still be on a pilgrimage as he, after Mr. Turk lost to, quite frankly got embarrassed by his father. Hope Mr. Turk out of the lineup can really hope lead to Oblivion.
Yep. Absolutely, and so, you already mentioned how we like the Thresh ban. That's a specific takeaway from Ginshu on the side of Oblivion Esports. He's just a mastermind on those hook supports, so nice to see that taken away. But coming through the draft here, Lost Chapter, they're going to pick up the Jarvan 4, so putting Gregorio on something that has a lot of that early ability to take control in the jungle, that's going to be answered by the Amumu pick. And Silver, I wonder what you think of this Amumu. We know that it's gone through some changes, and it has been a little bit more popular here in CCS.
Yeah, I really do think Amumu's gotten a lot stronger. The changes he made, especially being able to stock 2 Qs, is massive, which is something also interesting to see. I've seen him mostly run in support since the changes, and now they lock in the Braum, which shows that it's going to go most likely jungle. So I'll be interested to see. I haven't really seen a Mumu jungle, but I'm curious to see how well it performs. And Jarvan, I think, is just a pick that's really risen in priority and has gotten a lot stronger over the patches. So I think this is a good adaptation by Lost Chapter to pick up on something that I think is really an up-and-coming champ.
Yeah, and it's going to be also followed up by the Rise from Lost Chapter. So just a couple of strong blind picks so far from Lost Chapter. We know that Rise has also just kind of been a staple in the mid lane, so they're going to be picking that one up for themselves as well. And we'll see what Lost Chapter wants to lock down before the next round of bans, and it will be the Varus coming through for the bot lane.
Yeah, I think Varus is just still one of, if not the best AD carry right now. He's just a champion. You can just slap him in any team comp, and it just feels like he'll be able to do something. He may not be the main carry, but he'll still be doing damage with a lot of his poke damage with his Q. But his ult is something also very useful within team fights. Great, combo with the Jarvan, because once Jarvan has them locked up, they can't really move either. And interesting enough, the Vladimir answer into the Rise. 2 mid lanes that you don't normally see, especially in this meta, I think is very interesting.
Yeah, and I think that, I might be mistaken, but I believe earlier in the season we did see the Vladimir kind of banned out a little bit, away from Swagger, who's normally the mid laner from Oblivion Esports, so finally getting a chance to go on that one. Not certainly something that we've seen a lot in the meta right now, but is going to be favored, and we'll have to see. Maybe this is a matchup that he feels like he has priority in and is able to take over the Rise, but as we step into the second series of bans, we are going to see the Leona banned away from Lost Chapter. Lost Chapter going to answer it away as well with the Darius. So looks like kind of a couple specific picks being taken away from, I believe it's Rough I'm a Turtle starting in the top lane this time for Oblivion Esports. We did see him in at least 1 week on the stream taking over for 1NM, who's the all-star top laner for them earlier in the year, and he did not disappoint during that stream. I believe it was against Arcanists, who did end up dropping for the league, but just a really strong player for them. And with Camille being taken off the board as well, it looks like Lost Chapter are just really trying to limit his options, and I would be surprised if Oblivion didn't hold the last pick for him, as it looks like they're going to cover an 80 carry pick now.
It looks like it is the Jinx. I'm not gonna lie. I'm kind of a Jinx hater. I think the champion requires a lot of peel for something, and while they do have the Braum, I guess to an extent the Amumu, it's just gonna be so easy for the Jarvan to get on top of them, or the Varus ultimate, or if the Rakan, if they lock that in, it's just so easy to get onto the Jinx, as they do go with the Rakan and the Dr. Mundo. I just think it's gonna be so hard for this Jinx to play the game, and frankly, if the Jinx doesn't get off the ground, I'm really concerned about Oblivion's damage this game.
Yeah, and it looks like they are trying to hover a final pick here for the top lane from Oblivion, maybe considering this set pick. But Kevin Chen, the top laner for Lost Chapter, we've seen him be really successful on this Dr. Mundo pick earlier in the season. It's also something that's a very strong kind of blind pick here, especially when Oblivion Esports, you're anticipating that they are gonna want to take something that's, kind of, more melee champion, something that might be able to peel for the Jinx a little bit, not going to be going for one of those ranged top laners. And with the Mordekaiser finishing out the draft from Oblivion, does seem kind of like a strong pick into the Mundo, but I agree, Silver, doesn't really do much for that Jinx.
No, it doesn't do much for that Jinx, and I'm a bit worried about how much magic damage the side of Oblivion has. They have the Mord, the Vladimir, and even the Amumu does primarily magic damage. Jinx being the only AD, Mundo gets a lot of value out of things like the Spirit Visage, as well as the Mercury Treads. It's kind of a no-brainer for a lot of these champions this game. You get a lot of value out of those items, so I'll be very interested to see. But only time will tell. They do have the answer to the Mundo to hopefully shred through with the Jinx if she can get ahead enough. But if that Jinx falls behind, that Mundo's going to be damn near unkillable.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I do agree with you that I think the Jinx is going to have a hard time. I feel like if you're Oblivion Esports, you're really trying to push this game kind of as late as you can, not only with the Jinx in terms of the scaling, but also the Vladimir as well. The Vladimir is a champion that definitely gets a lot stronger once he can get, even up to that level 11, that level 16, getting a couple items under his belt. But at the same time, Silver, it's a double-edged sword, because you already mentioned that this Mundo is only going to get more and more difficult to deal with as the game goes on. So yes, the Jinx and the Vladimir will begin to stack damage, but will they be able to keep up with this Mundo for Kevin Chen, who's been so good in the top lane, all year long? And I wonder, Silver, I touched on this in the podcast earlier today, but Gregorio, he's the jungler for Lost Chapter. He has been so impressive on some of these early game picks, like the Diana, which interestingly enough, they did pass up on here. He's been good on the Trundle as well. This time he gets the Jarvan, which has been one of the biggest jungle picks in CCS. Where do you think Gregorio's focus will be here in the early game?
I think, as someone who plays a lot of mains mid lane, I just know how bad a Vladimir who's behind is. Like, that champion just feels so bad to play, feels so unplayable. I would not be surprised if he tried to get mid lane early, but I think bot is very exposable as well, because you have the Varus poke, you just have the natural combat advantage as well as the Rakan engage. Great follow-up, he could even look to level 2 gank that, but, but I think the more you get the Rise active early, the better it is, because then the jungler can't play because you'll have a Rise in your face all game.
Absolutely, and we see it in the chat and the Twitch chat a little bit now, and I totally agree that if you do not get this Jinx off of the ground early, and I would argue even the Vladimir as well, it's going to be a very hard time for Oblivion Esports. They're going to be fighting on the back foot for the rest of the draft, so it's going to be up to El Matador on this to be able to come through and to be able to, get some early game pressure, try to put this Rise and this Dr. Mundo behind, but he's got a tall task up ahead of him.
Yeah, it's going to be very important to get the Jinx and Vlad ahead, because both champions, not known for their early game, they don't, the only one who has a strong early game who has any really presence actually is Mordekaiser. So it'll be very important for El Matador to try to get Vladimir or Jinx some advantages to help them bridge the gap from early to mid to late game.
Yeah, and to be fair, to play a little bit of devil's advocate, we can look at the flip side of Oblivion. Now, if this Jinx and the Vladimir, or even just one of them, is able to stack some early gold, then it becomes a little bit scary for Lost Chapter, right? Because we know that this Oblivion composition is going to scale so well, especially kind of with the range that they're able to bring as well. Sure, the Varus has pretty long range, but it's going to kind of be poke damage. Eventually, this Vladimir is just going to be able to heal through it. The Braum is there to block some of the arrows for the Jinx. The Mordekaiser is going to get a lot of sustain as well. So I think if you are Lost Chapter, again, to put it from the other side, you kind of have more, the onus is on them to play this early game strong. You should be able to do it, but if they don't, it becomes a lot harder.
Yeah, because nothing's more terrifying for your backline than a Vladimir who's just one-shotting all your carries. Doesn't matter if Mundo's unkillable if all your carries are dead.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we are going to go into a short spectator delay here, but don't change that dial. We're going to be back in just a couple of minutes for Game 1 of Lost Chapter versus Oblivion Esports. We'll be right back. Welcome back to week 9 of the CCS. We got a hype matchup today with Lost Chapter on the blue side taking on Oblivion Esports over on the red side. Here we run on to the Rift, and I was a little bit mixed up about the roster that Oblivion is fielding today. They always throw us for a loop with that. So Swagger, normally their mid laner is up in the top lane. We have Godspeed Hondo in the mid lane, not someone that we've seen at least on the stream yet for Oblivion Esports, and then Rough, I'm a Turtle, typically a top laner for this team, going to be down on that Jinx. And to be honest, Silver, that doesn't really make me that confident in, the Jinx, a pick that has to be executed so well when you have a top laner playing it.
I'm not gonna lie either, Elsa. I'm not too confident either, but it looks like they may not matter because this Jinx may just get first blood. And, and then we have the response. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and so I immediately caster cursed, Lost Chapter as Rough I'm a Turtle picks up, that first kill, and with that with the Braum, level 1, I guess you can never underestimate that, but is going to be answered back by Lost Chapter, picking up the kill onto Godspeed Hondo. So we do see a couple summoner spells blown there at level 1. Both the mid laners going to be blowing their flash, as well as Ginshu and the Ignite going to go down from Yoma. So, Silver, you already mentioned how there's going to be probably pressure by both junglers into this mid lane. It makes it even more accelerated when we see these flashes blown at level 1.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot easier for these junglers to get ganks off when both mid laners don't have flash, and it's gonna be a lot harder for Oblivion Esports bot lane to have pressure when Braum doesn't have combat summoners, while the side of Rakan still has his flash up. Jungle still has their flash up. So it'll be very interesting to see what junglers do, given the fact that both of their mid laners died level 1, so it's kind of a net neutral. They both got a die, death, and assist. So pretty much it's a net even. It'll be interesting to see how they will take advantage of the fact that they don't have flash, and they both have very early ganking capabilities.
Yeah, absolutely.
Huge for Jinx. But huge for the Jinx to get first blood, like we said, help bridge the gap from early to late game. Will it matter now? Because before, like we just said, not too confident on the Jinx. Maybe the first blood, a little gold ahead, little ego boost. That's all they need.
Yeah, and so we do see the Jinx able to pick up the longsword, as we still see Ginshu getting a little aggressive onto Yoma, but not going to have enough in the tank to be able to get the stun off. But, Rough I'm a Turtle, having that additional longsword, not only does it help, kind of your last hitting, which is actually pretty important early game on these AD carries when you're last hitting under the tower, as Ginshu going to take a lot of damage there from Depper Prime, but it also, if there's any kind of all-in situations, obviously it's going to go more to the side of the Oblivion Esports bot lane now, and with both junglers kind of finishing up their clear, Scuttlecrab being started off by Gregorio, we'll see if they try to go for an early gank, or if they're just going to back for their items.
Right, and if we're looking at starting items, we, lost Shin Yuna already recalled to get the tier on the rise, which is obviously you want to get stacking as soon as possible. But interesting enough, Vladimir started with Doran's Ring, and what this does, it gives you a lot of base stats that you like, even though you can't get mana, and it also helps blast hitting as we got a dive going top lane.
Oh, and that is a close one. Swagger going to be able to survive. Gregorio nearly going down, taking multiple turret shots there. Kevin Chen also taking one on the backside. So all of a sudden, this Mordekaiser sitting pretty in the top lane after that gank, and Gregorio just seemed like he was really trying to force that one there. It doesn't end up working out, and we do see some vision going into the jungle of Lost Chapter by El Matador on the Samumu, sets the little ward down onto the Raptor pit. Kevin Chen, he's going really low. He's got to watch out there.
Yeah, unfortunately, it really, like you just said, it really did look like Gregorio was really trying to force that dive. Top lane wins, like, you already got the flash, no need to, kind of be, like, really greedy about it. But yeah, no, that vision as a mid laner is huge, because now Godspeed Hondo can just do whatever he wants, and we got a solo kill in the top lane, never mind.
Yeah, and Kevin Chen tries to step up for that CS. He's just going to get grabbed in by Swagger on the Mordekaiser, and he even flashes on the back end of that. So that's really going to be tough for Kevin Chen. Going to be kind of a big target on his back now for El Matador should he choose to visit that top lane. They should have the timer on that Mundo Flash. That one's not going to be up for a long time. And Swagger69, got to give this man credit. He's filling in the top lane. He goes right up there. He picks up a kill onto this Mordekaiser, and that's what you need if you are playing this Mordekaiser pick into the Mundo. If you can get this early lead, then you can start to have some pressure into this lane. You can start to win those trades, but should you fall behind, it gets a lot quicker. So again, everything going the way really of Oblivion Esports early on in this game.
Yeah, it's huge, having the Mordekaiser at least have the ability, be in the position to be able to really bully this Mundo, because early game, he's not incredibly tanky, He's not the unkillable menace that we all know and maybe love. But I'm very interested to see how it goes, Now he will have the flash advantage and interesting enough, the TP advantage as well. So that bot lane for Deparine and Yalma, we have to be very careful because they could easily get teleported on by both Mordekaiser and Vladimir.
And speaking of this mid lane, it's going to be pretty even here so far. We anticipated maybe a little bit more jungle pressure, but both players, being pretty safe. Godspeed Hondo going to be up a couple of CS, but not really going to be that much of a difference. But I guess, we did talk about how this Vladimir was going to struggle a little bit more early, so doing a good job of staying in range, as we are going to see Yoma. He is going to go in, and Shin Yuna, he had the teleport on the backline. Shin Yuna going to pick up the first kill onto the Jinx, as Rough I'm a Turtle is going to go down. Godspeed Hondo, he's going to use the troll pool forward, not going to be able to pick anything up, as he did drop his ultimate. So all in all, it is going to just be a 1-4-0, favoring the side of Lost Chapter. Both mid laners expending the TP, but only one of them getting anything out of it.
Yeah, that's really feels bad if you're Godspeed Hando there, using everything there, and Vladimir, he recalled, but he didn't buy any items. He's still sitting on a Doran's ring. He had no items going to that. He teleported in, uses all. He's like, why am I not doing damage? Oh, right. I only have a Doran's ring at level 7. So really unfortunate. I feel like if he had some items, he had was able to buy it. Oh, never mind. I can't even finish
and there's Swagger. He's going to TP into this Dragon area, as we are going to see the Cataclysm drop from Gregorio, but he doesn't have anyone else on his team there. Swagger's going to bring him to the Death Realm, and he's going to take Gregorio down. And now with the Dragon already being started and Gregorio being down, not any chance, really, for the steal from Lost Chapter. And so it is going to be a kill going on to both sides, as Godspeed Hondo did end up going down in the exchange, but ultimately an Infernal Dragon going over early, and a nice use of teleport advantage by Swagger69.
Yeah, I'll be I'm kind of interested what the communication there was for Lost Chapter, because Gregorio didn't have anyone around him, and then he ults, and he goes in and ults, I believe, 3 or 4 people, which could have been good if he had the backup, but Varus was not there. He couldn't pump out any damage, so I don't know what exactly happened there. If they were trying to contest and they just couldn't get there in time, or just decided to go rogue and say, you know what, I'm putting the team on my back. I'm getting all 4 kills and this dragon.
Yeah, absolutely. And, with another kill going over to this Mordekaiser, it is just going to get even harder for Kevin Chen. Now, he was able to take down 2 plates on that top lane turret. Is going to get himself a nice 320 gold, so puts himself a little bit closer in that regard, being able to pick up those extra coins there, is able to back and pick himself up, the Giant's Belt, in addition to the Kindle Gem that he has. So that will be nice for the top laner, but, Mordekaiser just getting ever so far ahead there. And taking a look at the jungle, though, we are seeing El Matador. He's going to be falling a little bit further behind in CS, so just some efficient pathing from Gregorio early on, as these bot lanes still sitting pretty even.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is, it's looked like a lot of these things have gone Oblivion's favor in this early game, but, interesting enough that Lost Chapter is still almost 1,000k ahead at 9.5 minutes, and you look at that, a lot of that's in the jungle. Gregorio up 1,000 gold on the Samumu in the early game, as well in bot lane. Bot lane is only up 150 gold. The Jinx is only up 150 gold. So that first blood earlier, as we got the pause for the mid leg, but as I was saying, the Jinx isn't as ahead as she'd like to be, especially after getting first blood in the early game. As well as the fact that Jarvan can really take over this game. Oh,
Yeah,
and
absolutely. As we are just going to see a couple disconnections, getting a little bit of lag here, so we are going to go into a short pause. And I think to speak to your point, Silver, Lost Chapter, they are able to kind of accrue just kind of this passive gold lead because of the fact that, let's be honest, they've shown us throughout the CCS season that they are just a little bit of better players. Their laning ability just a little bit higher, kind of their mechanical ability, and that is kind of what pays dividends here, being able to keep them in the game. And we've already talked about how that is just absolutely so critical, because if you let this Jinx get ahead, if you let this Vladimir get ahead, then it becomes a lot more difficult for Lost Chapter heading into the mid or late game. And I will say that it does feel a little bit nice to have that insurance policy if you're Oblivion. You are able to kind of rely on the scaling a little bit, especially because we're almost 10 minutes into the game, and yeah, sure, Lost Chapter's been able to make a few things happen, but 1,000 gold behind, it could be worse.
yeah, no, it could very much be worse. And interesting enough, Gregorio hasn't really been able to do something really early game. Like we had said earlier, both mids didn't have flash for like for the first part of the game, and no ganks were made mid lane, so not taking advantage of the fact. So I think it's interesting that where the priorities were landed. Like Gregorio, he had the gank top lane, he got this flash, but lost a lot of tempo, almost dying 2v1 to Swagger. So I think it's just trying a lot of recuperation for that, and mid lane has just been a complete and utter farm fest. Both of them, maybe slap each other every now and then, but it's like no, after you, sir, please take the CS.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see that we had a request in the chat to go over to the gold. So, I'm not in charge of the stream, but I can swap over to the gold myself. And Silver already mentioned that most of the gold lead was in the jungle from Gregorio. And looking at this gold, 3,700 from the Jarvan, 2,700 from the Amumu. So there is the gold lead right now. Gregorio holding the whole thing. And honestly, Silver, having that on the Jarvan, it's nice that Gregorio's been able to accrue this lead, but he's not the one who's going to be carrying those later game team fights in terms of the damage. You would honestly rather have it on someone like the Ryze, someone like the Varus, or even the Mundo, who is going to scale a little bit better going into that mid to late game.
Right, because right now it doesn't really matter if Jarvan is able to one-shot their Jinx, because he's not going to be able to do that late game. Like, it's just not going to be happening. Late Jinx is going to have too many items, going to too much damage, and just have too much peel in order for that to matter. So I agree with you. I would much rather see this big of a gold lead on a carry or even the Mundo, because if the Mundo gets ahead, he just becomes unkillable faster, and the enemy team just has a terrible day. Ryze, obviously, side lane menace, can one-shot the entire team, especially for on the side of Oblivion. They have a very low range comp. The only one who has really range is the Jinx. So Ryze is being very strong because he can just easily get the root off onto someone, because a lot of the people on Oblivion need to get close, and that's what Ryze likes.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually thinking about it a little bit more as we still hang out in this pause, there's not really that much wave clear in, as we move throughout this game from the side of Lost Chapter. You already mentioned it. They're a pretty short range composition. And outside of the Deperpine on this Varus, they really don't have too much to clear the waves. And we know that, this Varus most likely going for that on-hit build looks like, or rather, sorry, not for the on-hit build. Looks like he's going to be going for that poke build. He did pick up the Serrated Dirk as well as the Tier. If you are Varus in this build, you want to use your abilities to be able to snipe Rough I'm a Turtle on the Jinx, to be able to snipe out Godspeed Hondo on this Vladimir. You're not wanting that to clear the minions. So, if there is a situation later in the game where Oblivion Esports is able to get some sieging going on, it might kind of become tough for Lost Chapter to be able to clear out those minion waves.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting because they can easily send Swagger into the sideline as the Mordekaiser, especially Mordekaiser, who has accrued a gold lead in the early game, is getting ahead. They could send the Mundo, but Mundo just doesn't have the wave clear or the fighting power. They'll most likely have to send the Ryze for the wave clear. So they, like you said, get into a sieging situation. If Ryze is in the sideline, he's not there to wave clear, and he's their big wave clear threat. Varus can wave clear, but like you said, it feels really bad when that's what you have to do, and you're not able to get any poke off to stop the siege.
Yep. And still just hanging out here. Looks like from the chat we're just Having some problems with connecting. Hopefully we will have the members of Lost Chapter back here in a minute, maybe doing some secret strategy.
Oh, okay, here we go. Never
and
mind.
We are back into the game here. Just as I say that, just needed to once
Caster
again
curse.
caster curse.
Yep.
Yep, exactly. Just did the trick. And we're back into the game. So, right now we are at a little bit of a lull with both teams, mostly just laning here, but we do see Gregorio. He's over in that topside river. He's going to taking out that Rift Herald, and it looks like Oblivion Esports is none the wiser, as there is not a dragon up at the moment, as I am getting a little bit of lag here myself.
Same here.
But now I'm back into it. So we'll see where Gregorio decides to drop that Rift Herald. I know a lot of times teams do like to get that into the mid lane so that they can open up the map a little bit, but it would also be interesting, to see if they can get it into that bottom lane to force Rough I'm a Turtle to be in a little bit more danger while farming, as El Matador, he is sitting on a pink ward here. He's looking for a possible gank.
Yeah, I think that where they could drop the Rift Trail, obviously said mid lane is usually the most logical sense. But seeing the 3 plates top lane, if they could get a successful gank onto this Mordekaiser, it looks like that they could very well. Nope, never mind. He's gonna go for the reset. But if they were able to get that gank off, burn his flash, force a reset, Swagger doesn't have teleport, so they could easily shove the wave and get the first turret with that Rift Herald.
Yeah, and that is often the case with the Rift Herald, is you try to get it, just wherever you can get that first turret, wherever you can get that full value of the gold is usually the best place to drop it. And I wanted to point out that Oblivion Esports, they had 3 pink wards down here in the bottom lane in those 3 brushes, so kind of an interesting strategy there, but I wasn't able to see exactly how El Matador got into the bush, but it almost seems like he might have been spotted, because Deprapine, he shot that Q on Varus right through the bush. It seemed like either El Matador came into vision at some point, or Deprapine's spidey senses were tingling. But great job by the AD carry from Lost Chapter to spot that one out.
Yeah, no, good job from him, because, if he, it's so easy to get that gank off if you're the Amumu, because you have so many vision. But here we have Gregorio looking probably to set up a gank in the bot lane to try to get this Rift Herald down and maybe this first turret to help his Varus, get ahead and maybe put this Jinx behind.
Yeah, and we do see Ginshu and Rough I'm a Turtle pretty far up, and Yoma, he's gonna get the knock up there onto Ginshu. We're gonna see the flash out from Rough I'm a Turtle. Now we're gonna see the Cataclysm, and Ginshu just getting demolished. Deprapine picking up the kill, but with Rough I'm a Turtle still alive, we'll see if he is able to hold the wave. I think that Lost Chapter probably could look to threaten a dive here between Gregorio and Yoma. The amount of CC that they're able to bring in, Gregorio, he is going to go ahead and drop the Rift Herald in that bot lane, but El Matador, he's on the way, is able to provide some backup for his team. Gregorio, he's going to get bandage tossed up, and he is going to get stunned, but easily able to flag and drag himself out. So ultimately, Rift Herald is able to pick up quite a few turret plates, just going to be, 2 left there on that bottom lane turret, but crucially, as we had spoken about, not able to pick up the full turret there, and Kevin Chen, he's going to pop his ultimate up into the top lane. Swagger, he's going to drop the death realm, but he's trapped himself in there. It is going to be death for the Mordekaiser. He dances around the minions, but the flash forward from Kevin Chen able to pick it up, and now we're going to see the Braum ultimate coming out. Yoma going to be able to pick up the knockup, and now we're going to see Lost Chapter. They're going really low. Ginshu, he's able to pick up the kill on Gregorio, and Deprapine able to pick up the kill on Ginshu, or Rough I'm a Turtle, sorry. Shin Yuna was able to pick up the one on Ginshu. Godspeed Hondo is going to be able to finish off Deprapine, and now we're going to see a 2v2 jungler and mid laner versus mid laner and support, as Shin Yuna looks like he's in the driver's seat on this rise. Still has quite a bit left in the tank, and a flash forward. Will he be able to pick up Godspeed Hondo? He's so low. Shin Yuna, he's got the angle. Trollpool going to come out to keep himself alive for just a moment, but not for long, as El Matador is going to land the bandage toss. Shin Yuna picks up the kill on Godspeed Hondo. Just a moment till he picks up another one. Double kill to the rise. Super Mega Death Rocket not able to finish it off.
Oh my god. What the hell is going on? Just so much happening very quick. But that is so sad in that fight. That is so sad for Rough I'm a Turtle. If he was able to get the reset, he may have been able to clean up that fight. So low on the sides of Lost Chapter. He may have been able to just clean up that fight and get really, push it ahead for his team. Instead, the fight goes in the way of Lost Chapter. But out, teleporting in, just to ward off the dragon, and as Lost Chapter will secure Earthdrake. But back to the Rift Herald bot lane. Great play by them to be able to get the Braum out, and they get the Jinx up as well. As we have a little top lane combat.
Yeah, as Kevin Chen, he just looks to be taking over in this top lane, definitely getting the best of these trades. Death Realm not going to be up for a while, and with Yoma up there for the support, that's going to be another kill from the Dr. Mundo, and what was all of a sudden, it's going so far in the side of Lost Chapter as Gregorio, he's in the bot lane now, going to get that, he's going to get the Cataclysm on top of Roughheim and Turtle. Now we're going to see the Realm Warp coming out for the Rise. Ginchu with a well-timed knockup is able to keep himself alive, but Lost Chapter, they're able to get into the driver's seat, and they are going fast, baby. They're going to pick up that bottom lane turret with the help of the Rift Herald, able to pick that one up. It is going to be the first of the game, and Kevin Chen going to take out another one in the top lane. All of a sudden, Silver, it's a 6K gold lead for Lost Chapter.
And this game went from 0 to 100 real quick. You know, this game was going very smooth in the beginning, very even. Lost Chapter maybe taking some disadvantages. You know, Oblivion getting some nice advantages in the early game, but Lost Chapter has really just put the pedal to the metal these past few minutes. You know, they've gotten so many kills, they've gotten so many turrets, they've gotten objectives, they've gotten a lot of plating gold onto the people that you want to see. Rise is now sitting at 4-1, Varus at 2-1, and then this Mundo has just turned the top lane matchup around and is just starting styling on Swagger and Mordekaiser in the top lane. Like, this is just turning into what I'm afraid may be turning into a stomp.
Yeah, and, you know, we gave so much credit to Oblivion to be able to hang in there in the early game, you know, with this kind of scaling composition. We said, oh, 1K gold down, that's not that big of a deal. Well, now it's 6K gold, and now it becomes so difficult. You know, we've seen the power of this Jarvan pick against the Jinx now with being able to just Cataclysm on top of Roughheim Turtle time after time. And, you know, the flash from the Jinx being on cooldown, Gregorio, you know, his ultimate is on a fairly short cooldown here. It's already up once again, and he's just able to do it, you know, just a minute and a half cooldown. So it means that Gregorio is able to use that ultimate on the Jinx about 3 times before Jinx gets the flashback up, and that's just not the spot where you want to be if you're Roughheim Turtle in this game. Kind of feels bad for the Jinx. And remember, Silver, they picked the Jinx into this Jarvan. They decided that they were okay with this matchup. We criticized it early on, and, you know, our predictions kind of coming to fruition here.
Yeah, hopefully we don't cast or curse ourselves with that, but, you know, great on Gregorio. He burned the flash earlier when they went for the play with the Rift Herald bot lane. He knows the Jinx doesn't have flash, or sums for that matter. Re-ganks them again with Shin Yunma in the bot lane. Get another kill, get the turret. Great punish by him to put the Jinx that was once ahead even further behind. And like we said earlier, it just feels so bad. Your carries are behind. You know, the Vlad can't get anything going. The Jinx had something going, but couldn't push the lead with anything at all. And that Q damage was disgusting by Kevin Chen.
Yeah,
oh
look
my
at that,
goodness.
2 Qs, it's already about a fourth of Swagger's health down. And the problem is, you know, when Swagger tries to trade onto Kevin Chen, it doesn't even matter. We know the Mundo is just going to heal right back up. He has the Anathema's chains already completed. You know, he's sitting pretty, and we're just kind of waiting on this Mordekaiser to pick up some healing reduction. Probably going to pick it up next. He does have the Rift Maker completed, but until you get that Grievous Wounds, Mundo is going to be sitting pretty, baby. And I don't see the Grievous Wounds anywhere, you know, on the side of Oblivion Esports. So if they don't pick that up, Kevin Chen by himself, you know, if he is able to get on top of a Jinx, you know, even get on top of this Vladimir, he's just gonna raise hell, because, you know, the Mordekaiser already has some built-in sustain. It has not been enough already against this Mundo.
No, it has not done really anything at all this game. But interesting enough, no healing reduction on the side of Oblivion, and then we have El Matador.
Oh, he's able to flash away. Looks like he will be able to keep himself alive. You know, short of a snipe by Deprapine, doesn't look like it's going to come out this time. But the flash from the Amumu is a pretty important cooldown to be able to make some kind of engagement. And you know, just looks like ultimate's expended. Although Deprapine, he does have his flash down as well, so the Varus might be a little bit vulnerable. As Gregorio gonna flag and drag in, and there's the flash again from the Jinx, not even having to drop that Cataclysm from the J4 to be able to, you know, get the flash away from Roughheim Turtle. And it's going to be 5 rough minutes once again for this Jinx. Going to be zoned out of these team fights as here's Yoma. He's going to jump in onto Ginchu. Ginchu able to jump to safety, but here's Gregorio. He does have that Cataclysm. Gonna lock up Ginchu. Able to pick up the kill. Roughheim Turtle, you know, hitting with impunity from the backline, but Gregorio, he doesn't even care.
Gregorio does not feel pain. Your bullets do nothing to him. You are weak, he is strong. It is how the world works, sadly, if you are rough, I'm a turtle. Again, his flash, blown immediately, almost it feels like this man has not had flash the entire game. It is just not allowed on his end.
Yeah, and go ahead.
It's just so hard for this Jinx to be able to do anything in this game. But interesting enough, no healing reduction on the side of Lost Chapter as well. Granted, they are extremely ahead in the driver's seat. They probably don't need it. But when you're against, you know, a Mordekaiser, a Vladimir, and even a Jinx with the lifesteal, probably a good thing to pick up, you know, at least on one of your carries.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, even quietly, Shin Yuna, we have seen him matching up in this bottom lane against Godspeed Hondo as he will realm warp himself out to safety after picking up the turret, but he is thoroughly winning the trades against this Vladimir at this point. Able to pick up those kills early on that really impressive display on this Rise pick shows us why he was so confident in taking this one as a blind, you know, saying, I'm ready to play this into anything. He made those plays in the early game, and he has been rewarded for it, and it's going to be a long time, if ever, that this Vladimir will be able to match up evenly.
Yeah, it's really tough for the Vladimir. It really gets harder for him as the game goes on because Rise pushes the wave and he doesn't interact with you, and he only interacts with you if he wants to. You have to spend all your cooldowns on wave clearing. Granted, they're short, but his are just as short. And if you try to go in as Vladimir, unless you can time the pool right, you're just gonna get snared and he props Favor Rush. He just walks away, and then you're standing there with your shoes tied together. You can't do anything about it. So it feels really bad, especially when you're this far behind. But as I pointed out earlier, Merc Treads on the side of Lost Chapter give them very good value against the Mordekaiser, the Amumu, as well as the Vladimir. As we see, three of the five have picked up Merc Treads this game, giving them what I think is just incredible value.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we are in a little bit of a lull here, although I'm sure it'll stop the second I say that. But, you know, we haven't even talked about the playoff implications so far for this matchup. And, you know, on the side of Lost Chapter is El Matador sitting in the bush, and Yuna, he is going to face check, and he's not going to get the bandage toss landed. And now we're going to see Gregorio. He's here. He's going to flag and drag in. El Matador's days are numbered, and Shin Yuna goes unstoppable, picking up that kill. And Lost Chapter, if they are able to win this matchup, it means that they will be able to secure that first round bye. If they already, I believe, have the playoffs clinched, but they can clinch second place and the first round bye if they win. For Oblivion Esports, as Gregorio going to use the Cataclysm in, and it just looks easy right now for Lost Chapter as Shin Yuna able to pick up one of the kills there. I believe, no, he picked up one of them, and I believe Depperpine picked up the other one, but Oblivion, they're in a do or die situation right here. If they are not able to win at least one game in this series, they are out of it. And I think right now, if I'm Oblivion Esports, I'm probably already thinking about the next game. How can we make sure we stay in this series? How can we make sure we pick up a win? Because it's just not looking good for them right now.
Yeah, if you're Oblivion, you're probably at this point joking around, memeing like, oh my god, we are just getting absolutely destroyed. You know, trying to get the mental reset so you have a positive mental going into game 2, because as you said, this game is all but lost at this point. Down 11k at 22.5 minutes. The other team scales just as well, if not as better than you do. You know, you just be like, alright, how can we at least try to get to 1 and 2? Because like you said, you know, win, and we're in. Pretty easy. But if we lose, there's a lot better way. 0 and 2, we're out. 1 and 2, you're telling me we have a chance. So obviously, if you're on the side of Oblivion, you don't want to be in that position where you lose 1-2 and you're pretty much praying to the League of Legends gods that you somehow make into the playoffs. But yeah, looks like if they want to do that, they're going to have to do the reverse sweep.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, now kind of the only question for Lost Chapter is how will they look to finish it out, as, you know, not really in the position quite yet that they can just start up a Baron with all the members alive from Oblivion Esports. But if they are able to pick off a couple members of the Oblivion squad at this point, they definitely might be running over to that pit. You know, they do have 2 dragons picked up already, but I would imagine that Lost Chapter, they probably want to finish this one up before it comes to that dragon soul point.
Yeah, I would imagine the next big fight would happen at Dragon, which would be spawning soon. I think Oblivion might be in a desperate situation, try to get something going. If not, then once Lost Chapter secure this dragon right here, as they most likely will, they can force something around Baron, maybe choke him out, maybe get someone to step in to check the Fog of War, they get a pick, they can start the Baron, which they can use to siege in a nice 1-3-1 that they have with the Rise as well as the Mundo.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, this dragon is going to be coming up in just about 5 seconds, and I think that, the problem is, look at these waves, from, as we are going to see, El Matador is going to look for Kevin Chen. I wonder if Kevin Chen might even try to go for this 2v1, as he does have his turret available very close, and we are going to see, not yet the Death Realm being popped. It will be popped now from Swagger69. Mundo going to be low on health. Kevin Chen, will he be able to keep himself alive? He's running back and forth. Mundo going exactly where he pleases. Swagger taking so many turret shots, as finally Swagger able to flash forward and pick up the kill onto the Mundo. He is going to stay alive for now, but Depper Prime looking to finish off El Matador. Will he be able to find him? He'll get the last auto attack to do it, as Shin Yuna now going to be in a little bit of trouble in the bot lane, as Gregorio going to be in there to help him out. He's going to flag and drag forward onto Godspeed Hondo, and look at that damage from the Rise, as Shin Yuna going to go godlike rough. I'm Eternal forced to back away with the flash, but now we're going to see Gregorio going forward, able to pick up the kill on Ginchu. This man will not die. Double kill under Rough I'm Eternal, and Gregorio, I shouted him out as the best jungler in CCS and the podcast today, and he's showing just that. Coming up big on this Jarvan pick, Depper Prime making it look easy into the top lane, picking up that last kill, and it's going to be all Lost Chapter here. Inhibitor in the bot lane going to go down. Dragon was already picked up by Gregorio, meaning it's 3 stacks, and Lost Chapter, they just need to put on the finishing touches. And we are seeing now, with those turrets going down, with that inhibitor going down, it is a huge gold lead for the side of Lost Chapter. It looks like they're up about 15k almost at this point, and there's just really nothing that can be done from the side of Oblivion Esports, honestly. Baron is probably going to be the next thing on the table, as Shin Yuna is sitting on a pink ward here. Is going to be able to hide in the bush. Not going to be able to make anything happen, as El Matador will clear that one out.
And back after a quick little internet hiccup on my end. Like I was saying, that fight was just all over the place and so beneficial. The spear is greater than the gun is what I've learned. And, the rich keep getting richer as they get a fight breaking out in the jungle. And 2v3, they just can't do anything to them.
Yeah, and they're just trying to dive everything they have onto Shin Yuna. Looks like they will ultimately be able to take down the Rise, but at what cost? Swagger able to pick up that kill, but, Kevin Chen, that's not really the person that you want into this Death Realm. He just will not go down, as Swagger eventually going to fall alongside Godspeed Hondo and El Matador, as Kevin Chen, he wants the base. Meanwhile, Yoma and Depper Prime going to be going on the Baron. Lost Chapter, they want to get it all right now. Ultimately, Kevin Chen going to be kind of feeding himself to Rough I'm Turtle there. So a little bit of miscommunication, as the Super Mega Death Rocket is going to go onto this Baron, is going to be blocked by Gregorio, and that should be a Baron for Lost Chapter.
Yeah, a little bit of miscommunication on that end. Kevin Chen wanted the end, which I think they personally could have ended. They had 4 alive to the Jinx. The Jinx can't do anything to anybody. Her bullets tickle literally everybody. So I think they could have ended there, but Baron, safe call, the better call, maybe the better call depending on your perspective. But just another too easy fight. It wasn't even the cleanest fight on the side of Lost Chapter. They were caught out 2v3, 2v4, but they still ended up trading, 4 for 1 just because of how strong they are. And we see this Jinx is just straight up not having a good time. Her flash has been down every game. Everything does damage to her. She can't hurt the Jarvan. The Jarvan hurts him. The arrows from across the screen are chunking her for half her health. She's like, what can I do this game? Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, and it almost seemed like, honestly, Oblivion was kind of like rage diving into Shin Yuna in that fight. He has been able to do so much on this Rise, and it's, yes, they were able to take out the mid laner from Lost Chapter, but he's not the only strong one on that team. We do see Depper Prime quietly sitting at 8, 1, and 4 on this Varus. He's hurting, as, he is able to take down this damage onto Ginchu. Ginchu able to be able to come to the counter engage, but Yoma's still in the front line, making things happen. Gregorio's right behind him, and Kevin Chen, and with the Baron buff, it's gonna be all but over here for Lost Chapter. Realm Orb from Shin Yuna gonna just get him closer to those Nexus turrets. Swagger trying to do what he can, pulling Shin Yuna into the Death Realm, but For the rest of Lost Chapter, they're going after the base. El Matador, he's looking like he's in trouble under the Nexus turrets. Swagger coming forward, trying to make something happen, but Gregorio, he's got his eyes on the prize. He's hitting on this Nexus, and it looks like with Swagger the only one left on the side of Oblivion Esports, he's going to be able to take it down. Game 1, going to Lost Chapter.
Lost Chapter, they played with their food for a bit, but then once they got bored with it, they decided it is time to eat. Just exploding for 29 kills in what turned into a fairly even early game to a very lopsided 29-minute win.
Yeah, and gotta give it to Lost Chapter there. It was close in the early game, but after that pause, I don't know, I said maybe Lost Chapter trying to do some secret strategizing. It looks like maybe they were able to pull it off during that pause time because they just exploded out of the gate after that. And I have to say, Shin Yuna, he was absolutely just so impressive on this Rise pick, kind of being the ringleader for his team, leading them through these fights, doing so much AoE damage. And, when we look at the damage charts here, we are able to see that Kevin Chen on this Dr. Mundo, he did do the most damage in the game. Swagger 69 on the Mordekaiser did follow up second, but it is always a little bit skewed with those melee top laners because they're just beating each other up the whole lane. I really got to give, kind of the player of the game for me has got to be Shin Yuna this time.
Yeah, no, Shin Yuna, he did a lot with that Rise pick. He created a lot of sideline pressure, just suffocating a lot of people, taking jungle camps, made it very hard for the side of Oblivion to be able to play the game. But let's not I think it's funny. We're giving all this praise to all these people. Deproprine went 9-1. This might be the quietest 9-1 game I have ever seen. He popped off, and yet it's like, but everyone, this just shows how good they are. Because even when he pops off, they have players who popped off even more, which is just incredible to me.
Yeah, and, just kind of shows the depth of talent that this team is able to field. So, going into Game 2, Oblivion Esports, I believe that they're not having to use their E-sub in the second game, which means that they should have their bans back. Hopefully, should allow them to take away some of these power picks from Lost Chapter. For me, I'd like to see the Dr. Mundo taken off the board. Anything else that you can think of, Silver, that you think Oblivion Esports should be, ripping away from Lost Chapter?
I'm not sure if they necessarily need to ban away the Rise, but they need to have an answer into it. If they don't have an answer, then they definitely need to ban it, but the Rise was too much of an issue. There are picks that work well into the Rise, a lot of control mages work good into it, but they need to be able to pull one of those out. Vladimir just ain't it, Chief.
Yeah, and so we're going to take a little break. We're going to be back in just a couple minutes for Game 2 of Lost Chapter versus Oblivion Esports. It's Week 9 of the CCS, the last week of our regular season. We'll be right back. Don't go away. Deep. Welcome back for Game 2 of Oblivion Esports against Lost Chapter Week 9 of the CCS. As we're going to get started with the picks and bans here, as Braum going to be taken away by Oblivion Esports from Lost Chapter. That was what Ginshu was playing actually on the side of Oblivion last game, so they're going to take away something that they had played. Lost Chapter, they're going to follow up with the Thresh. We talked about how Ginshu was so good on these hook champions, the Thresh in particular. So nice takeaway from Lost Chapter there, as Oblivion going to follow it up with the Trundle.
Yeah, to me, you know, them banning the Braum, it tells me that they want to go with another engaged support. Something to give Ginshu more power on. Something with more agency, and they don't want to give Braum over to the side of Lost Chapter. But I'll be interested, because this is a very important game, too, for Oblivion. Because if they lose, their season's done. That's it. Nada. But if they can win this game, and either lose 1-2, or win the series, their playoff hopes are still alive.
Yeah, absolutely. And as the GP being taken off the board by Lost Chapter, it is notable that Oblivion Esports, they're switching up their roster this game. Raphael Turtle, he was stuck down in that bot lane last game. Did not go too well for them. He's going to be back up into his natural environment of the top lane against Kevin Chen. So hopefully, you know, getting a little bit more comfortability as Swagger, also going to be able to get back into, you know, the mid lane. Tough Daddy going to be in the AD carry position for Lost Chapter. So, or I mean, I'm sorry, for Oblivion. So they're going to have a little bit more comfort all across the board, as J4 also going to be taken away by Lost Chapter. They don't want to give that great first jungle pick, and it will be the Camille taken first by Oblivion Esports.
You know, I like seeing them. You know, Raphael Turtle had a real, you know, for lack of a better term, he had a rough game last game. You know, he got, you know, pretty much he wasn't allowed to play the game last game. So getting him a comfort pick early on like Camille is huge. But where I want to know is hashtag where's Sultan? You know, I was looking forward to watching my man play today, and he's just gone. I don't know where he went.
Yeah, Sultan permanently banished from the CCS by Huffzone will be truly permanent if Oblivion is not able to pick up at least one game in this series. And Lost Chapter, they're going to respond to this Camille pick. Not going to bother to be counterpicking for this top lane yet. They are going to pick up the Lee Sin for the jungle. That one's going to go over to Gregorio, and then the LeBlanc for Shin Yuna. And I like kind of this, just picking up these priority picks from Lost Chapter. Lee Sin, another one of these junglers that's able to get that early game advantage, similar to something that the Jarvan is able to do. And then we've already seen Shin Yuna. He's just absolutely comfortable kind of blind picking his mid laner, this time actually opting for the LeBlanc, even though the Rise is open.
Yeah, you know, what Lost Chapter did is just secure themselves an extremely powerful mid-jungle 2v2. You know, not many things in the game are going to be able to out 2v2 a LeBlanc and Lee Sin early game. They both do so much damage. They have great CC to set up themselves with the LeBlanc E as well as the Lee Sin E. And they also get the Varus, another huge power pick for the side of Lost Chapter. And they're going to be doing lots of damage.
Yeah, an absolutely super strong kind of early to mid game trio here from Lost Chapter, and I love, you know, the philosophy here in the bot lane for the red side. You know, if it's not broke, don't fix it. They pick up the Varus for Depperpine. We talked about how he wasn't even highlighted really during the first game. He was just silently down there with this Varus, doing everything he possibly could to put his team ahead, and did a hell of a lot of damage on the way. As now we're into the second round of bans, it is going to be the Yone banned away from Oblivion, and that's a little bit surprising for me for Lost Chapter. Obviously, this Diana can be a flexible pick, but we have seen Swagger69 pick it up in the mid lane. He loves these melee mid laners from Swagger, the Diana kind of biggest ones. And Lost Chapter also banning out the Yasuo, kind of the brotherhood pick between the Yasuo and the Yone, very similar champions, while Oblivion going to be limiting Ginshu's, limiting the support pool from Lost Chapter by taking away the Karma as well as the Yona.
And something I want to point out that I find interesting is that Oblivion had the option to pick the Varus, and they opted for the Ezreal priority instead, which tells me they don't really value this champion, or they have other things in mind. Maybe they want the Ezreal Yuumi, or maybe they want the Ezreal still lane and have the roaming support. But we have a Warwick locked in, which that is something you don't see every day, especially when you have Lee Sin locked in already.
Yeah, and obviously earlier in the season that we had a lot more prevalence with this Lee Sin being a pick in the top lane and the mid lane. Obviously, you know, anticipating this LeBlanc to go into the mid, but with Warwick picked up, you know, it'll be interesting for me to see, is this Lee Sin headed to the top lane, or is it going to be the Warwick? I would think that possibly it could be the Lee Sin, right, as the Shen going to be picked up from Oblivion, but you know, Lee Sin, they did see the Camille right away. They answered it with the Lee Sin. We assumed that it was going to go to the Gregorio in the jungle, but, you know, maybe this is something that Kevin Chen just feels comfortable in this matchup. Certainly Lee Sin with that Sonic Wave and Resonating Strike, able to kind of follow Camille through this hook shot, and honestly, some pretty spicy picks to round it out from Oblivion with the Shen. I do anticipate that one to go to Ginshu in the support role. We have seen him play this Shen support before. It is something that we've seen also in, you know, some of the leagues like LCS, and the Hecarim to finish it up. This Shen just has a lot of options, you know, to go on top of with the Hecarim ability to engage, Diana as well, and the Camille, and with Lost Chapter finishing out with the Rel. I wonder what you think of these team compositions, Silver.
You know, Oblivion, they have one speed, and that's all in. They have the Diana, the Camille, the Hecarim, the Shen. All of these champions are like, we want to get on top of you, and we will do everything to do so. And then they have the Ezreal, who can really, you know, kite for himself. They don't have to really worry about him back there. He can fend for himself for the most part. On the side of Lost Chapter, I'm interested to see if where this Warwick is going to go. I'm not too familiar with top lane. It could be some like crazy pocket pick counter that they have ready for it. But assuming if it is Lee Sin top, I can't imagine, you know, with all the nerfs that it's had, that this will be a great lane for Lee Sin. I think if anything, if he gets advantages, it'll just be a pure skill gap. But the LeBlanc into Diana matchup, I actually think that this is like incredibly unfun for the Diana, because like, especially like level 6, when she tries to all in the LeBlanc, if she just times it right, she can just W out of your ult, and then you're just sitting there like really sad. So I think it'll be very interesting. I think Lost Chapter has a lot of good answers into what they want to do all in, especially with the Rel, because you know the Rel is just great. Engage, counter engage. You know, they said we want to dive all in. Rel's like, oh, thanks for stacking on top of me for me, so I get this 4-man really easily. So
yeah,
I think it really depends on how ahead, kind of like last game, how ahead Oblivion can get in the early game.
Absolutely, and I will say that, you know, Oblivion, they needed to get ahead in the early game last time too, but I feel like this team composition, it has a lot more kind of tools into the playbook, because not only, you know, they do have those specific win conditions of being able to find those engages, but they have a lot of tools to do so. That Hecarim's going to be able to speed up to anybody, the Camille with that hookshot able to get into the fight, and, you know, we didn't talk about it yet, but the Camille and the Diana, there's a very interesting interaction there when the Camille is able to get that Hextech ultimatum down. It means that it limits the ability of something like the LeBlanc just distortioning away, because you lock them into that Hextech ultimatum. Therefore, the Diana can get the Moonfall and kind of maximize the damage. And as we have jumped into the client side of the draft here for us, we do know that the teams are able technically to trade after the client draft, but right now we are seeing Kevin Chen. He has picked up that Warwick into the top lane role, and I'm really interested because, like you said, Silver, I also am not kind of a top lane expert, so I'm loving, you know, Kevin Chen picking up this Warwick in the top lane, bringing out kind of this specific counter pick to the Camille, which has been a really big pick in this meta. I know in the next, you know, in the next patch, there is a round of nerfs coming up, but Warwick, we'll see how it goes. I do see Huffzone, our resident kind of Camille expert in the chat, saying, hey, if you take this Warwick and you maybe pick up something like a barrier, it's unwinnable. So I don't know this matchup very well, but others who do might think that it does favor the Warwick.
I would say, yeah, I'm very interested to see how this Warwick pick works out, because I personally have like never seen this in any game, whether it be solo queue, professional, anything like that. So I'm interested to see if Kevin Chen can pull it off and just make this Camille pick look silly. But as I pointed to earlier, they picked the Ezreal and almost kind of anticipating that they want the Ezreal so they can like kind of like leave him alone, because level 6, you know, if they want to gank top lane or mid lane, you know, Hecarim may be coming in, they think it's a 2v2. It's really a 2v3 with that Shen ult coming in.
Yeah, and so, you know, it is going to be up to Gregorio on this Lee Sin. We already, pointed out how he is a really strong early game jungler, and he has the tools to do so on this Lee Sin. Definitely should be a stronger early game than the Hecarim. So I'm going to be looking for Gregorio to try to pull off an early game gank to be able to, go into the jungle of this Hecarim and try to create some early advantages for his team.
say, and I think this game, it is incredibly huge to get mid lane ahead. Because there's no game that is fun when you are the enemy team and there is a Fed LeBlanc. No matter where you go, tank, you're an AD carry, a squishy, doesn't matter. If she is ahead, if you walk into a brush that's not warded, you're gonna get one shot and you're just gonna be like, there's nothing I can do. She's everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I already said it, but I really love in that Oblivion Esports, they're coming out with some really clear win conditions. As Silver already said, it is absolutely win or go home. This game, it is now or never. It was time for Oblivion Esports to pull out everything they had left in the tank. And this definitely seems like the kind of team composition that they would have, talked about beforehand, that they would have kind of planned out. And they really got all the parts of it that they wanted. Silver, you already touched on it a little bit, but the Ezreal, this is the perfect AD carry for this kind of comp. So often teams fall into this trap of picking a complete dive comp and then having this AD carry that's kind of left in the backline just thinking, oh, what am I supposed to do? But, the Ezreal's the one that really fits that identity of being able to, keep himself safe, being able to peel for himself. And, I think the question for me is, will Oblivion Esports have the damage to, take out multiple squishy members of Lost Chapter right away? Because if they do, the fights are going to get really difficult to win on the side of LC.
No, 100% agree with everything you just said there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we are going to jump into our spectator delay once again. We're going to take just a little bit of a break, and we're going to be right back. It's do or die for Oblivion Esports. It's week 9 of the CCS. Don't go anywhere. For what could possibly be the last game in this series, with Lost Chapter taking on Oblivion Esports, and Kevin Chen on in the top lane with this Warwick. He did take that barrier that was shouted out in our Twitch chat, so, very interesting choice. This Warwick is going to be so difficult to kill. We know that he already brings so much sustain to the table throughout his kit, and with the barrier to help him stay alive, it's going to be a big task for Rough Eye Maturtle to take him down. Now, Rough Eye Maturtle in the top lane, he did take the Ignite. This is a pretty common pick on the Camille, kind of foregoing the flash, and because you do have that hook shot. So he did take that offensive summoner spell to be able to cut down this Warwick.
Yeah, it'll just be interesting to see because a lot, like you said, a lot of these Camille's end up taking the ignite top lane because they don't need it. But I always find as the game later goes on, if you're not able to use that ignite early, it just feels bad not having flash later for the whether to get out or as well as the flash engage. But something I want to point out is that in the mid lane, the Diana has actually opted for the door entering start. And what this means is that this hurts her sustainability in lane a lot. Because LeBlanc, not only is the ranged matchup, she's stronger early, especially at level 2. So it's going to be very hard for Swagger to have sustain, because LeBlanc not only outranges you, outdamages you, she also in Corrupting Potion, so she just has better sustain inherently as well. So it'll be a very rough going for him in the early game.
Absolutely, and we are going to see minions come in. We're going to see the laning phase starting here with both junglers. This time going to be starting on the bottom side of the map, so we might see them come up towards that top side. We'll see if there's a fight over the top Scuttle Crab. If there is, certainly we would want, we would favor Gregorio on this early game Lee Sin pick to be able to have priority. So we'll see how the jungler's path looks like. Gregorio, he is going to be going for that full clear as some early trading in this top lane, going pretty even. And we'll have to see where these junglers decide to target early if they do decide to go for any ganks.
And something of also to note is that both of these supports this game have opted for the exhaust over the ignite, as they did last game. It makes sense given given both what team comps are doing. If you're on the side of Oblivion, you have all these dive. To be able to exhaust, whether it be the Diana, the Hecarim, or the Camille, you're going to get great value out of that. And then, if you're on the side of Oblivion, you see they have a Lee Sin, a Varus, a Warwick, and a Lee Sin, LeBlanc. You can exhaust any one of those to help damper their burst, because they have a lot of burst on the side of Lost Chapter, as we have a gank coming in the mid lane.
Yeah, and an interesting roam here very early on from Yoma. He's going to be able to get onto Swagger, but Swagger just able to walk it out. Yoma going to end up taking a turret shot, and he's going to flash back forward. Yoma, he's not done. Be able to get the stun onto Swagger. Shinyuna able to, get a little bit more poke down onto there, but Swagger holding his summoner spell, staying true to what he knew would be okay, and ultimately going to be a bit of a wasted gank there, as it's going to be a summoner spell down from Yoma, a little bit of experience stolen into that mid lane, and meanwhile, nothing to see from it, as Deprine will fall a little bit behind in CS. Is going to be able to scrap some stuff under the turret, and some great team play though on the top side. If you're looking at the minimap, Kevin Chen, bailing his jungler out here, making sure that Gregorio is able to pick up this Scuttle Crab by roaming down to the river. He did have this wave priority as Gregorio. Now he's going to look for possibly a gank in the mid lane, but instead just going to run across there, letting Swagger know he's in town. Diana's got to watch out.
Yeah, and that flash by the Rel just almost seemed like a miscommunication there, because they had the opportunity for a kill if the LeBlanc had Ignite, or the Rel had Ignite, or if we had a stronger... it looks like a Matador getting caught up for first blood.
And before I even have a chance to speak, it's going to be first blood going down. It's going to be, Deprine, definitely the best member out of the three there, able to pick up the kill. And that's Matador just not really knowing his place. He's trying to step up. He did pick up the Scuttle Crab, but it's very, very telegraphed. Gregorio just ran across the lane. I mean, they knew where he was, and still, the Hecarim just being in a bad spot, the Lee Sin able to pick up the Sonic Wave Resonating Strike and take him down, as Shinyuna looking for a trade here, but Swagger kind of showing that Diana does have pretty good sustain into the mid lane.
And with the Rel Roam earlier, bot lane was able to get the slow push on the side of Ezreal Shen, and they were able to actually secure the Scuttle Crab for their jungler, for the Hecarim. With the pressure, they were able to roam up and make sure that they, Gregorio could not double scuttle him there. But, unfortunately, on the side of Oblivion, El Matador overstayed his welcome, got caught out by Gregorio and Yalma, thus giving over first blood to the Varus, which is huge, because the sooner he can pump out those arrows and do half health to people, the better if you're on the side of Lost Chapter.
Yeah, and, speaking of the Varus damage, Deprine already able to pick up that Serrated Dirk, in addition to the tier, which he did start, I believe. So, the Varus already having a lot of early game power, and we, already touched on how the Lee Sin does have that early game priority as well, which is going to allow just at 5.5 minutes, Gregorio, he just has Yoma roaming on over, going to be able to take down this dragon, and I am impressed, Yoma, his first roam didn't work out, but he has been able to lead leave Deproprine alone in this bot lane, and it's been just fine as he does pick up a pretty nice trade onto Tough Daddy. Tough Daddy able to land a Q on the back end to keep in it a little bit. But with Gregorio constantly down onto this bot side, Tough Daddy and Ginshu, they've just been on the back foot. They've had to just keep their eye out for that jungler all game long so far.
And like we stated earlier, you know, as the game goes on, they want to leave this Ezreal alone, to be able to leave him alone. Well, and if we look, we have a solo kill in the mid lane, just... Oh, Gregorio with the kill steal! What are you doing, man?
The straight KS from the jungler of Lost Chapter. Gregorio just throwing out that Sonic Wave to pick up the last hit. If you're Shin Yuna, you're going to be flaming your jungler right now. But, you know, the LeBlanc picking up that kill, and early on it looked like Swagger was holding out fine in those mid lane trades, but now he's going to find himself doubled up in farm. He's going to find himself down a kill, and Shin Yuna with this early advantage, he's going to be able to probably roam around the map, and that's when the LeBlanc gets really scary.
I'll say Shin Yuna has an 800 gold lead at 7 minutes already, 30 CS lead. It's looking really bad if you're Swagger and you got solo kill style. Even though on the stats it'll say that the Lee Sin was there, and you know, if you're playing solo queue, you probably say, jungler gank, that's why I died. But in reality, we all know the truth, sadly. But on the side of, as I was going back to earlier, they want to leave the Ezreal alone, so with the Shen ulting around, and this only helps. And this helps the Rel roaming, because the Rel doesn't need to stay in lane, because the Varus won't die to the Ezreals. We look maybe a potential engage. Deproprine does have the ult.
Yeah, Deproprine probably looking to throw at this ultimate hit. Gregorio is here, but instead going to be able to hold on to it for now. They are walking into quite a minion wave, as Deproprine is going to lose about half of his HP bar to those pesky little minions hitting down onto him. And we haven't really talked too much about the top lane so far, but, you know, got to give it to Rough I'm a Turtle. He is into this, ostensibly this counter pick Warwick, as we do see a little bit of fighting come out, but he's sitting fine in CS. He's about 10 down right now, but he's going to see this wave crash, so we'll give it to Rough I'm a Turtle. Seems like he is, you know, sticking with it a lot better into the top lane. As here's Swagger, he's going to use the Moonfall, as Shin Yun is going to fall low. El Matador, he's going to go forward. Did he pick the wrong one? Matador!
No, it's a tragedy!
Swagger, he wants to try to make something happen going forward. Gregorio able to keep himself alive. Shin Yuna picking up the kill, and it's disaster for Oblivion Esports in the early game.
And Elsa, this is no longer a comedy, this is a tragedy. So unfortunate, they fell for the El Clasico, the oldest trick in the book, the picking the wrong LeBlanc clone. Able to secure the kill, as well as hold on to the flash to be able to make himself live when the Diana tries to dive them as well. Makes it such a feels bad moment, and that's a big tilter if you're Oblivion.
Yeah, and it seems like once El Matador was under the turret and had already used, you know, the majority of his dive, his ultimate, onto the LeBlanc clone, he realized his mistake, but it was just too late. He had already taken multiple turret shots, and to be honest, even if he did choose the right target, it was going to look really bad there, as Kevin Chen going to do what Warwick does best and drop that ult. Here's Gregorio going to miss the Sonic Wave Resonating Strike, but there is Kevin Chen showing why this is a counter pick, being able to follow Rough I'm a Turtle with his Q. But now Kevin Chen is able to stay alive. Gregorio finally going to pick up the kill onto the Camille, but Matador's here. Swagger and Ginshu. Kevin Chen trying to stay alive. The double kill going to go to Gregorio. Triple kill to the Lee Sin. Do we have a quadra? No, not quite yet, as Kevin Chen is able to finish off the last one. But wow, Gregorio.
What a play!
Yeah, able to get himself so far ahead shows why it was worth prioritizing this Lee Sin.
And this Lee Sin is now almost 2k up at 10 minutes now, sitting at 5-0-3. You know, he is sitting pretty. You know, that was an incredible play right there. You know, it started off kind of scuffed with Gregorio missing the easy Lee Sin Q, but he more than makes up with that when securing the 2v4 outplay on the side of Lost Chapter. Oh,
yeah,
securing the Rift Tower really well. This game is really rearing up to be another stop, sadly.
Yeah, and here's Swagger trying to make something happen onto Shin. Yuna is forced to pop the passive, but now, you know, you pointed it out in the Champion Select, Silver. Even this time, Swagger hitting that ultimate, but after that, Shin Yuna just able to use the distortion, able to get himself to safety, and just displaying why this LeBlanc is such a, you know, nice pick into this Diana. It has to be a one-shot or nothing from Swagger.
And it feels so bad on the side of Swagger because, you know, you're like, I'm gonna use everything on this LeBlanc because she's greeting for the plate gold, and you use everything and she just W's away and you don't get the kill. You're just like, why do I even bother? You know, there's just nothing I can do. You know, I'm so weak. She's just so strong. I'm gonna try to go back on her again, but it's just nothing's gonna work.
Yeah,
But this means we'll get the reset and hopefully maybe get some tempo on the side for Swagger.
Yeah, just not quite enough to be able to take down Shin Yuna, as he is going to be able to popping those emotes, just kind of having fun here, because last chapter, they are so far ahead. It is just 11 and a half minutes into this game, and they have almost a 5k gold lead. Took them a lot longer last game. Well, maybe just a little bit longer last game to pop it off, but in comparison, Oblivion, they just never looked like they were even in this one for a second.
No, they just didn't look like they were anything for a second. Because, like you said, at least in game one, they were able to hold out for at least the first 10, 12 minutes of the game. But this one, the game just blew open at like 5 minutes in, which is really unfortunate. But what I want to know is that hashtag where is Sultan? I wanted to see this man play today and try to help his lead back from his pilgrimage into the playoffs. And sadly, this does not look like something we will see, because I highly doubt I anticipate a game 3 in the series.
Yeah, it just doesn't look like he could stand the embarrassment again here in CCS. You know, just not wanting to take that one down as, Gregorio gonna kick back Matador into his team, immediately going to be taken down. Shin Yuna able to pick up the kill. And, you know, now, at first, we gave Rough-Eye Turtle some credit, but after that top lane kind of skirmish that went down, Kevin Chen, he showed us the reason that this Warwick is a great counter pick, being able to follow the Camille's hookshot with his Q, and now with about a 20 CS lead, this Warwick absolutely in the driver's seat in this lane, has about a 1k gold lead, and I don't really see a way for any of these lanes to get back into the game from Oblivion Esports.
Yeah, if you're on the side of Oblivion Esports, the gold chart is something you don't want to see, especially on the side of mid and jungle. Very depressing if you're on that side. But not all hope is lost yet so far. Even if it has dire as it may seem, a 7k gold deficit down. The way they can get back in this game is they need to get some picks. You know, they have the composition in order to do it, because with the Channel, they can turn every one-on-one fight into a 2v1. And, you know, if they can outplay them enough, they can get shut down gold and slowly accrue back out of this deficit. But how everything's going so far, it looks like it's going to be a 2v2 kill on the side of... Oh.
Yeah, and we're going to see a dive here onto the top lane as El Matador going to be going low, as well as this Camille Rough-Eye Turtle. But the turret aggro is going to be juggled beautifully as El Matador going to go down. Shin Yuna able to pick up the next kill, and look at that. They're low, but they are not out. A beautiful top lane dive, and now we're going to see bottom lane a dive on this side as well, as we are going to see the exhaust go down. Yoma not quite able to pick up the kill as Tough Daddy able to jump away on this. Ezreal did have to expend the flash, but still able to keep himself alive as Swagger. He's going to jump forward. Moonfall going to be able to pick up Yoma, and now Deprapine, he's not in a good spot. Will he be able to try to get the execution here? Ezreal is going to land the Q, and that's going to be a shutdown for Tough Daddy. So, you know, as you said, that's nice. You know, you gotta give some credit over to Oblivion Esports, able to avoid that bottom lane dive. You know, the dive going on in the top lane from last chapter, bottom lane maybe getting a little greedy.
And I like the initial look of the dive from Lost Chapter, but Deprapine, he had no mana, and you know, Lethality Varus, he doesn't do that much damage with his auto attacks, especially not in a timely manner. So that, and the overcommit on the dive gave time Swagger to come back down, and they were able to secure 2 kills out of that. More importantly, shutdown gold going onto the Ezreal. And if they want to get back into the game, they got to get the shutdown gold somewhere.
Here's Gregorio. He's looking for Ginchu, trying to pick up a solo kill, as Exhaust is going to be dropped onto the Lee Sin, going to run out, but Gregorio, he's still got more left in the tank, but not exactly on target with all of his Qs this game. It's very strong, but Shin Yuna, he's found Matador. Matador, he doesn't have anywhere to go. Shin Yuna on a rampage, and once this LeBlanc gets going, that is a hard pick to stop. Shin Yuna now sporting the 4-0-3 score line, and gotta imagine with this Rift Herald about to spawn again, that might be the next target for Lost Chapter, as they will look to snowball this game.
Saying is, like I said in Champ Select, if a LeBlanc gets rolling, the game is so hard to play. As we saw, there wasn't a ward in the brush.
Oh.
Hecarim just dies, no counterplay. It's like, there's no place I can go. There's nothing I can do about it. And the LeBlanc can just walk around the map and one-shot your entire team. No questions asked. Dive no matter what. It is just such an oppressive pick when it gets ahead.
Yeah, and poor Rough I'm a Turtle here. 4 members of Lost Chapter up onto this top side. This man just wants to play some League of Legends, but he got turret dived already once. Now he's just getting picked back. This Warwick counter pick just seems like it's really strong right now. You know, has already picked up the Divine Sunder. Camille looking for a Divine Sunder of her own, but had to stop at, you know, grabbing the Executioner's Calling to shut down some of that healing beforehand. So it's going to be a while till this Camille comes online with this first item, and until then, looks like Gregorio is into this jungle, able to get the ward hop, kick back onto El Matador, who is able to use that ultimate ability to get away. The Onslaught of Shadows taking him to safety, but unfortunately, now the dragon is about to spawn. Remember, at just 5.5 minutes, they picked up the first one. Looks like they might look to get their third, but first, they're hungry for some kills as Gregorio knows El Matador. He doesn't have that ultimate available anymore. Shin Yuna picking up some damage, and the resonating strike coming through. Gregorio gonna go godlike. Swagger looking for a back, but you are not in a safe place. He's not in his base yet. He's gonna go down now. Tough Daddy and Ginshu looks like they are gonna be under this turret. They're stuck as Shin Yuna and Gregorio clearing the wave behind him. Tough Daddy trying to get rid of these minions, but here's Kevin Chen. He has arrived. He's gonna grab the fear onto Ginshu, who will be able to get the taunt. Shin Yuna gonna get a little bit low. Now we're gonna see the Warwick chasing down, but it is going to be a double kill secured by this Lee Sin. Has been the number 1 kill securer in this game, picking up the triple, and this is just a clinic being put on by Gregorio in the jungle.
And I know I said a few minutes ago that not all hope is lost if you're on the side of Oblivion. Sad to say, I think that little bit of hope you had is lost. 18 kills, 17 minutes. They have more kills than there is minutes in the game. More than a kill a minute. It is an absolute slaughter on the side of Lost Chapter. Everyone's ahead. You know, there's not anyone who isn't just significantly ahead of their counterpart. If you're on the side of Lost Chapter, I don't know. I don't know where your damage is going to come from in fights. I don't know where your tanking is going to come from to survive any of the amount of burst damage they have on the side of Lost Chapter. I think it is damn near impossible to find a way back into this game.
Yeah, and honestly, kind of the saddest part as we do go into a pause here, the saddest part for me, for Oblivion Esports during that last bottom lane dive is they played it pretty much as well as they could. You know, Tough Daddy was able to arcane shift away from the Warwick initially. We saw Ginshu able to pick up a taunt onto Shin Yuna, but despite that, Silver, it was still a clean dive, and that's kind of the mark that things have gotten a little bit out of hand from Oblivion Esports, as, you know, kind of curious as to what's going on with this pause, because even if a player is disconnected, can't really see anything changing. Looks like maybe a little bit of jungle lag.
Sadly, I don't think that the jungler coming back will have much impact on this game, as much as I hate to say it. But like you said, that bot lane dive, they did, though, Oblivion, they're like, I'm doing the best I can, but, you know, maybe if a Lost Chapter only ahead 1,000 gold at 18 minutes versus 10,000, maybe there'd be a chance they could outplay that and maybe secure a kill too. But Lost Chapter is just way too damn ahead to where no matter, even if you play perfectly, they just go no you and just win it anyways because they're just that far ahead.
Yeah, and I mean, there isn't really, honestly, too much to say about this game. I have been interested, actually, about one thing I would like to say is this Warwick counterpick, it does seem like it's worked out pretty well. There's been some fun interaction, so I'm glad Lost Chapter was able to show this one out. And going into the playoffs, this is kind of something that you do like to see. Scare teams away from, picking these priority, picks that seem safe to blind pick, something like this Camille. Now, if you're going against Lost Chapter in that second round of the playoffs, assuming Lost Chapter does pick up the bye, which it seems like they will here, you question picking up things like that, and it just kind of throws a little bit of a wrench into the champion selects of teams that they're going against. On top of that, Shin Yuna, he showed 2 blind pick mid laners in this series. Both of them looked absolutely exquisite.
Yeah, and back to your Warwick point, a little bit of a counterpoint would be, I find it interesting that Lost Chapter would reveal, kind of almost show their hand a bit when, after game 1, it seems like they handily won this game, why show maybe a pocket pick you may have prepped for playoffs so early when it seemed like, judging off of game one, and especially how this game's been going, you may not have needed to show your hand that quickly, in which you could have gotten a team who maybe really wanted the Camille, and then you reveal that and you win with that pick, and then it's like, oh, what do we do now? We planned on Camille, and now we can't have Camille.
Yeah, no, I that is a good point also. And I mean, even just kind of looking across the board, I mean, the Gregorio also, they picking up the Lee Sin, they lost chapter themselves, decided to ban out the Jarvan. They didn't want to give it, they didn't want to give it to Oblivion, but instead they say, hey, we can have proficiency on this Lee Sin pick as well. Deprapine playing this Varus, this guy can play more than that. And then Yoma showing a lot on this Rel pick. And going back to in the early game, I mean, there's been just a really fast tempo in this game from Lost Chapter. They had the Lee Sin, which has this early game prevalence, but on top of that, Yoma was roaming from just, level 2. He was going mid lane. It didn't end up working out, but I feel like it kind of creates this atmosphere in the game where if you are Oblivion Esports, you are always kind of looking behind your back, always knowing that there's kind of this second jungler. And this is a meta we've actually kind of seen across the world, is seeing supports more as kind of these roaming threats. And I like Lost Chapter kind of showing that ability to adapt into that meta as we move into the playoffs.
Yeah, that's something I really like. It wasn't even just necessarily they were playing into what Oblivion most likely want to do this game with having the Shen roam around and everything, but just have the supports roam around in general. Because if you're on the side of Lost Chapter, especially after you get Deprapine that first kill and get him ahead, you really think, well, if they send the Shen to follow, we don't have to worry about the Ezreal killing the Varus. Because not only did the Ezreal opt for the teleport, our Varus has heal, he's ahead, and it's an Ezreal. In theory, he will have to extremely misplay to have even a chance of dying 1v1. So it just opens up a lot more, as Ginshi was forced to stay bot most of the time, and what this also created was an XP advantage for the side of Deprapine. So you noticed earlier when they did gank earlier with Gregorio, Deprapine was level 6 to their level 5, which, if he had decided to use the ult there, may have resulted in more kills.
Yeah, and honestly, at this point, I'm wondering if El Matador just went ahead and AFK'd this game. It is the last week of the CCS. He is 0-7-0, but no, we do have every indication that hopefully he will come back at some point. Again, if I was Oblivion, I'd probably just be trying to be done with this as soon as possible, but they're trying to get the maximum out of their internet and try to have, the best chance that they have in this game. So here we are. Tomorrow we're going to be on the cast again. We will have the analyst desk coming out at 7 p.m. Eastern. After that, we're going to have Limitless Future going against Lemon Citrus in another big playoff battle. So I know I'm going to be there tomorrow with Rychain, so I'm excited for that. Kind of just looking forward to the next matchup because this one already looks decided. So a lot of important matchups still to be played in the CCS tomorrow, which will determine our playoff teams.
I'll say nothing's better than a week 9 that is hype and has implications. And that, this week, this game, it had huge playoff implications. Granted, it hasn't turned out the series to be exactly what we wanted. And, to give credit to Oblivion, this game, how last game became and how this game is, I do give respect for them not wanting to give up and just call the game an FF, because I would totally understand, especially if this was like a solo queue game, you're just like, get me the hell out of here. And I'll give them credit where credit's due. They do not want to give up.
Yeah, absolutely. And Oblivion, like we said, probably going to be hitting the, getting out of the CCS with this loss is a little bit disappointing for them, as they were able to take victories. Recently they were able to upset Team Ambition Heart and Soul, and so we did kind of expect that at one point this team was even in, contention for that second seed, but a little bit of a fall from grace here in these last couple of matchups. They did play on the stream last week. They were not able to take the victory. So against PGO, we did talk about that, how, Sultan, aka Mr. Turk, he is gone. He left his team. I would be a little bit salty about that.
Where's Sultan?
Yeah, maybe wishing they had him there right now, as they did not do very well without him, but I guess they didn't really do that well with him last week either.
Let's say, yeah, if you told me a few weeks ago, who do you think would be the playoffs teams? I most certainly would have expected to have Oblivion in there. But this big fall, like you said, in the recent weeks left them a bit shaky. But it's like I still think they're at least had playoff potential, and to see almost like a collapse is really unfortunate to see.
Yeah, and so I was speaking about the matchup for next week between, for tomorrow between Limitless Future and Lemon Citrus, and when I look at it, with Oblivion losing, this gives a huge boost actually to that matchup to make it even more important. Now Limitless Future, they only need to take one game tomorrow against Lemon Citrus in order to be able to secure themselves a spot into the playoffs. So definitely taking a little bit of pressure off the shoulders of Limitless Future, and as well as that, Lemon Citrus, I believe they only need to they need to win one game and then have Oblivion, Esports, and Goldfish Gaming lose. So they're still rooting against Goldfish Gaming. They need that to happen, but definitely still, going to be some pressure in that game, and we're excited for that one tomorrow, as well as still just kind of waiting on this pause, not really seeing too much of an update here in the chat or anything like that. So we're hanging out. Once again, I am Elsa the Queen, and I'm here with my boss, Silver. So happy he was able to step in on the cast this evening. So thanks for being here tonight.
No, it's been real fun. I haven't done any sort of casting in a long time, so getting into it, it felt a bit rough for me at some points, but it's real fun. Oh, but does it look like we're going to be getting back into things?
All right, I'm ready to jump back into it. Not going to be any extreme action. It looks like jumping right into the game. But we do see confirmation from Oblivion Esports that they are ready to get back into the game. They're ready to finish this one out. And I wanted to highlight that the early jungle priority from Lost Chapter, as we do jump back into the game, has been so critical. They were able to pick up that 5.5-minute dragon, and after that, they've just been grabbing them right on the timer. It is still about 4.5 minutes, but that's already going to be for the Cloud Soul, and that's kind of the point where, it's already pretty much unwinnable for Oblivion. That's where they're going to be where Lost Chapter is able to just end it out so quickly, get that cooldown reduction on the ultimate, get that extra move speed. So, look for that to be a big fight. We'll see if Oblivion Esports does look to challenge that at all. Not really sure if they'll be able to, but, should they lose it, that's definitely kind of the last nail in the coffin.
Yeah, I think, at this point, on the side of Lost Chapter, they're just playing the game out, waiting for Cloud Soul to come up, and then eventually take the Baron as well. Kind of surprised that they haven't gone for the Rift Shield, considering how just far ahead they are. But at the same time, they don't really need it. It would just speed up the game faster than a game that's already at kind of a breakneck pace. So it'll be interesting to see, as we look like is Swagger just going to be helping. He's just chunked out again. Just on it, just cannot have any fun.
Yeah, no, not at all. And, I do have to say, kind of, with picking this mid lane Diana that is this melee champion, it is a losing lane overall into Shin Yuna on this LeBlanc. It's something that you were always waiting to scale, as we do see Ginshu going to be able to go forward under Gregorio, going to be followed up by El Matador, but so tanky on the side of Lost Chapter, and they're not able to pick up any kills, but they are able to just jump away. Kevin Chen able to use his ultimate to go over to the wall, and it is going to be Swagger expending his teleport to get in there. He's not going to get any value out of that, and Shin Yuna, he's just pushed into the bot lane. He's happy to stay here, and now the other members, some members of Oblivion being forced to run all the way down there. But Shin Yuna, he's already been able to pick up some CS, as he is going to go forward onto Swagger, able to pick up the chain. We'll see if he's able to pick up any more. Is going to just get a chunk onto the Diana and walk right away.
And well, this time Kevin Chen and Gregorio weren't able to turn that 2v4 into 4 kills. They were able to, get out, have the side of Oblivion use almost everything in order to try to get anything out of that, and just unable to even get them to really half health, which is really tragic. And then that Diana teleport, I don't know if that was just a tilt play or something, but that was incredibly late. Nothing was ever from that teleport.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we do see Sultan, he is in the Twitch chat there, and I gotta say, Sultan, why aren't you here for your team right now, man? Are you just Are you just too destroyed after last week? I'm sorry, we're picking on him probably a little bit too much, but
Oh,
trying
but
to
not nearly
convince-
as bad as Lost Chapters picking on Oblivion.
yeah, and he's trying to convince our dear leader Flay that maybe Oblivion has some mathematical chance, but I don't think so. As Gregorio maybe going to look for a play here as Kevin Chen, he is going to jump forward, not able to grab the fear, and the blue buff will be secured by Lost Chapter. As Rough Eye Turtle, he's going to jump on Kevin Chen. He is going to be caught in the Actec ultimatum. Kevin Chen ultimately going to be taken down by El Matador, who is able to use that onslaught of shadows forward. Now Gregorio on the back foot is able to safeguard onto his support and get away. So that will be, a 1-for-0 pick. So got to give it to Oblivion Esports getting something done this far behind. That's something that's hard to do.
And Deja Vu, right back there at the blue buff, 2v4 situation, but this time Oblivion are able to capitalize on that and at least get one kill out of it. So while that doesn't necessarily mean that the tides of battle are changing and everything, but it does help. And as we said right now, not a lot is going on the map. They're waiting for Lost Chapter's waiting for Dragon to spawn, which is only buying more time on the side of Oblivion. Granted, like I said, doesn't necessarily mean things will change, but at least it gives them a sense of hope and time to be able to, get gold, get XP, buy items.
Yeah, and I will say that the gold lead, it has been steady, just a little bit under 1k, or sorry, 1k, they wish, 10k gold lead for Lost Chapter. So not growing at least. And to be honest, when you do have that much of a gold deficit, you're pretty much going to be okay with that being the case. As Shin Yuna, he is waiting here to grab Rough Eye Turtle, going to be able to grab the chain onto him, getting a big chunk. Ultimately, Shin Yuna having to back off. If Rough Eye Turtle was able to get in his face, then it does get a little bit scary for that LeBlanc. But as we had mentioned, it's going to be just about 4 seconds till this dragon is available, and Matador is all the way on the other side of the map. I would anticipate Lost Chapter going right onto this one, and then we see Gregorio, he's going to jump over the wall and do just that.
Yeah, looks like an easy pickup on the dragon side. The side lanes on the side of Oblivion just cannot keep up with the side lanes of Lost Chapters as well. No one can match into the LeBlanc 1v1. I'm not even entirely sure 2v1 they could match into the LeBlanc. But as it's going, the side lanes on the side of Oblivion are looking good. They have the LeBlanc pushing in, and curiously, they don't have anyone even attempting to try to answer bot lane. They look like we may have Kevin Chen being caught out 1v4. Oh, nope, he just is going to walk away, it looks like.
Matador, though, trying to go forward. Onslaught of Shadows is going to come in. Now we're going to see that Warwick ultimate onto El Matador, but the exhaust from Ginshu onto Kevin Chen. He's going to be kicked off for the second time in about 5 minutes, but now the Baron has been started up as Kevin Chen was warding so many members of Oblivion onto that bottom side, but it is going down fairly slow. It is Deproprine on that Varus. It is, not necessarily the fastest at taking down the dragon as far as AD carries go, so in a 4v5, they will be pushed away, and this is still, a 10k gold lead. The gold lead still is not growing, so Oblivion trying to find the advantages where they can. You got to give them some credit. They are sticking in this game as well as they can. The Cloud Soul, as we mentioned, did go over to Lost Chapter, so they are able to rotate so quickly around this map. Lost Chapter going to clear out some vision around the Baron, and I would anticipate that they probably just want to start it back up here once everyone's able to back and, come over to that area again with their newest purchases.
I would say, and if they had, whether it be a Rise this game or an AD carry that does more with their auto attacks, that could have easily been a Baron take there. But with the LeBlanc, with the lethality Varus, yeah, they were able to. Kevin Chen was able to buy time and distract 4 of the 5 members on the side of Oblivion on the other side of the map. But their take is so slow, and it was only about 22, 23 minutes into the game, so not very long into the game either. They have a very slow Baron take, so not able to properly punish for the fact that they were spend all their resources getting out Kevin Chen, but good on Oblivion for able to get Kevin Chen, knowing that they could also push them off of Baron after getting the pick in the 4v5 situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And, interestingly enough, we will see 3 members from Lost Chapter onto this bottom side of the map, clearing out this vision, maybe trying to set up some kind of pick here as El Matador, is pinging down onto Yoma saying, hey, can't we do anything about this Rel who's just chasing on into our jungle? Not for now. They aren't going to be able to do anything as, it looks like really Oblivion Esports just kind of fighting for their lives. They have been able to try to place down as much vision as they can to keep control of their own jungle, but a really good job by Lost Chapter of getting in there, being able to take away a lot of that vision, clearing out those wards, making sure that they own almost the entirety of this map.
And plus side for the side of the Oblivion, Lost Chapter hasn't really pushed the envelope in this game, despite being so far ahead for a long time, for about 5-10 minutes. Oh, but it looks like we have got the Shen Elf coming in.
Yep, Shen Elf coming in from Ginchu as Kevin Chen. Is he in danger again? Doesn't look like it because the rest of the cavalry is here. Gregorio, the first one to strike. He goes legendary, and then Kevin Chen picking up the second kill onto Ginchu. And now with 2 down from Oblivion, you gotta think that this is gonna be a Baron for Lost Chapter.
And just when I said Lost Chapter hasn't been pushing the envelope, really since they were waiting for Cloud Soul, they push the envelope, they get 2 kills, and it looks like it'll be an easy Baron. They have teleport on the side of Shin Yuma if the side of Oblivion try for some reason go for a desperation steal fight, so on and so forth. But doesn't look like that'll happen. Swagger trying to do something to get a kill on Shin Yuma just doesn't happen. El Matador the same, and I can't imagine much will change.
Yeah, and Matador trying to use that onslaught of shadows to get onto Shin Yuna, but Shin Yuna not even needing to use his own ultimate in order to, get away, not having to use that mimic, and it will be the Baron going down, and it kind of is a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. When you're this far ahead from Oblivion Esports, of course you want to use what your composition brings to the table, drop that Shen ult on top of the Camille to try to make a play happen onto Kevin Chen, who has been a little sloppier, admittedly, on the Warwick as the game has gone on, but then, when it doesn't turn out to get the kill, they get punished for it, but, you can't blame them for trying.
I would say, yeah, you have to do something if you're this far down. You have to go the desperation something on the player who had been playing sloppy the most since getting so far ahead. I understand the attempt and I understand, but when you're unable to kill the Warwick and then the Goon Squad shows up and just kills you both instantly, it's like, damn. Well, at least, we had to do something. Didn't work out, sadly.
No, it certainly did not, as we are going to see Rough I'm a Turtle jumping in, trying to make something happen. Kevin Chen going to respond with that ultimate from the Warwick, able to get the fear under the turret. We see the Hextech ultimatum being dropped. Yoma coming in for the support, but it is not even needed. Kevin Chen, he's got his counter pick. He's got a solo kill up in this top lane, as now the gold lead finally has started to extend with this Baron power play. Is going to be about a 14k gold lead for Lost Chapter, and they are able to almost pick up this top lane turret, not quite able to do so, and we'll see what they decide to do with the rest of this Baron buff as Tough Daddy, he is deleted. Yoma flashing over the wall to pick it up as Gregorio, he has found Matador in his own jungle. Gregorio flashing forward, trying to get the Q. Depperpine says, no problem, boss, I got it instead. Ginchu flashing away, but it's too late, as the Q already gonna land from Gregorio. Can he follow him into the base? He will, gonna get the resonating strike, just staying alive from Ginchu. Gregorio, will he be able to land it? He will! One more auto attack will do it. Gregorio still going legendary on the Lee Sin, but now he's trapped into the base as Rough I'm a Turtle gonna jump onto him with the hookshot. Gregorio, he refuses to die. Gonna be blocking his Gage picks up the double kill. Swagger still trying to make it happen. He can't do it. Triple kill again for Gregorio, and he is cementing himself as the best jungler in this league. His Lee Sin play, I just have no words.
I don't think it's much of a debate. He is the best jungler in the league. And I can already hear the broken keyboards, the smashed monitors on the side of Oblivion Esports after that. You're like, what the hell do we have to do to try to kill this man? Even when we do kill him, he's not really dead, as the GA was popped on his side. But maybe... Oh, no, they don't even get him.
Can't pick him down as Gregorio able to safeguard himself to safety. Ginchu, he's getting killed on the fountain, and the swag teleport coming out from Shin Yuna. That's going to be the game. Lost Chapter. It's about as clean as it gets as they pick up the victory 2-0 over Oblivion Esports.
In this series, especially this game 2, wasn't very close. The first 10-12 minutes felt kind of close, and the game sort of blew open. Sadly, this does mean Oblivion, their season is over in the CCS, but Lost Chapter do secure second place, and more importantly, that first round bye for playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. Congratulations to Lost Chapter for, being able to pick up that first round bye. Certainly something that they deserve. We got to shout it out. Lost Chapter, they did have 2 losses through forfeit when they weren't able to show up to their games, but this is the only team in the Classic Championship Series that has not been taken down by another squad. They have not been bested in one of these best of 3 matches, and that just means that they're so scary. Yes, they're the second seed, but they are the only team that hasn't lost. They are the team that you would not want to go against if I was going to come into these playoffs.
No, and personally, I think they're the best team going into playoffs. Yes, they're the second seed. But yes, like you had pointed out earlier, they have not technically lost a game. Yes, they've had 2 forfeits, but they're technically the only team who has not lost yet in the CCS. And, especially after this performance where it wasn't even close, they definitely look strong going into playoffs.
Yeah, and regards to Oblivion Esports, they did have a strong season. They were in contention for the playoffs all the way into this last week. So we do want to give them a shout out as well. Hopefully we'll be able to see them returning to the CCS next season. Definitely had a pretty strong split here for them. But ultimately, Lost Chapter coming out on top. And looking at these damage charts, Silver, Gregorio over 20k damage on this Lee Sin. It is a special thing when you're able to use the Lee Sin to get the most damage in the game. Yes, Lee Sin, it's a great facilitating champion. It's not typically something that we see come out with this kind of damage, especially with the jungler. When you're spending so much time just fighting those jungle monsters, not trading in lane, like these other players. And Gregorio, he's certainly my player of the series.
Yeah, no, I think it'd be. I don't, we're in a series where pretty much everyone on the side of Lost Chapter showed out. It just feels like Gregorio shined the brightest, and that says a lot about this team and especially about this player. So I would most certainly agree with you. The player of the series, hands down, has to be Gregorio. He had such an impact throughout the early game, the late game, everything. He had such control of the map. He made El Matador not able to play this game.
Yeah, and I want to thank everybody who tuned in tonight. We are going to be back tomorrow at about 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Central if you're like me for the Analyst Desk. That's going to be followed up by Limitless Future against Lemon Citrus. That's going to be a great matchup as well with similar playoff implications. And that's going to be the game for us. I'm also the Queen. I was joined here by Silver. Once again, thanks for being with us. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button on Twitch to support the CCS. We'll see you tomorrow.